Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Quinn's first online sewing lesson. So today, to get started, I thought we would make something really straightforward and simple and quite on trend at the moment, and make one of these face masks. Okay, so a simple rectangle, a couple of bits of elastic and a few pleats sewn in like that. Okay, so to start off with, what you're going to need is a paper pattern. Now the paper pattern I've drawn, and it's a simple rectangle measuring 26 centimetres along the bottom, 18 centimetres down the shorter side. And you can see there's a couple of markings that I've drawn on here for you. This line here is called a grain line, and in here we've got some notches. Now for those of you doing National 5, this terminology is going to be really important for you, and this will probably come up in your exam, this type of information. Okay, so I want you to start to build your bank of knowledge about the pattern information that we're using. You're going to need some cotton fabric. Now I've chosen a patterned llama fabric there. If you can't source fabric, then maybe you could find an old shirt that nobody minds you recycling, or a pillowcase, that sort of thing. Okay, you're going to need a box of pins and 2 lengths of elastic. Now these measure 14 centimetres, and I picked this up fairly cheaply on Amazon, I think it was. So there's lots of online shops that you can source things like that from. Okay, so let's get started. First thing you're going to do is use this grain line to show the direction that you want your pattern. Because I've gone for llamas here, I want my llamas to be facing the right way up when I come to wear it. Okay, I don't want them lying on their side. So this grain line has to run in the same direction as the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to lay my grain line onto my piece of fabric. Obviously I've cut mine out before, and you're going to draw around your fabric and cut that out. You also need to transfer this notch information there as well. So I'm going to use my scissors or my snips and just cut a small snip where these notches are. Now these notches are important because they tell us our start and stop line for our sewing. So all of the information that's on the pattern has now been transferred onto our fabric. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is fold the short edge of the fabric right side to right side, so that's the side of the fabric that we want to see, the right side on top of each other, matching the short side, and we are going to cross pin that edge in place. Okay, so what I mean by cross pinning is pinning at a right angle to the edge of the fabric. And the reason we do that is so that when we come to stitch at the sewing machine, the needle hops right over the pins and doesn't hit the pin and break the needle. So I would pin about 3 fingers width apart. Okay, and now we've got that secured in place. We're going to take that to the sewing machine and do our first line of stitching. Okay, so I've placed my fabric underneath the foot, and I'm going to make sure that the edge of the fabric is right up against the edge of the foot here. I'm going to start off by stitching backwards. That's a reverse stitch, and the reason we do that is it's like it's tying a knot in the end of the thread, so it's not going to unravel when we come to wear it. Okay, so starting at the edge of the fabric, I'm going to stitch right up to that first notch, and that's where I'm going to stop. Do a little reverse stitch again, lift the fabric out, and I'm going to cut my threads nice and close to the fabric so that it's nice and tidy. Whenever you buy an item of clothing from the shops, you'll find that there's not any long tails of thread hanging from it, or hopefully there's not, so it just gives a nice professional finish. Okay, and again, start and stop with a reverse stitch. Take it out and cut the threads nice and close. Okay, now I can take my pins out. And you can see there we've got 2 nice straight lines of stitching with a small gap in between. Right, we're now going to take that to the ironing board and press it so that our seam now lies in the centre of my fabric. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is to secure our elastic inside these side openings here. Okay, So to do that, what we're going to do is place the first piece of elastic inside, right up to the very edge where that fold line is. You can see how close that is, and we're going to pin that in place like that. Okay, we then need to reach inside, find the end of the elastic, make sure we're not twisting the elastic, otherwise that's going to be quite uncomfortable to wear, and line that up along the other side here and pin that in place also. Okay, so now I've done that with both sides of my fabric. I'm now going to take that to the sewing machine and stitch along this short edge. Again, make sure we are reverse stitching to secure our elastic so that when we come to wear it, the elastic doesn't ping out. Okay, so once you've stitched your elastic in at both sides, what we've now got is a rectangle with a small hole in the centre seam, and this is where this now comes into play and you see the importance of it. What you're going to do is reach inside that small opening and feel for the elastic, and then we're going to pull through our face mask to the right side. Okay, so it's now going to look like this. Okay, so once we've turned that through, we now have our almost completed face mask with a small opening in the back. And what we're going to do with that is very simply close that over with the machine, with the sewing machine, by pinching the seam like that, so the two edges come together. Place that under the needle, and we're going to stitch right on the very edge and get as close to the edge as we possibly can. Okay, so we now have that opening closed over with a small stitch like that. Right, we're going to take that to the ironing board and give that a quick press, and this is where we're going to press in our folds. Okay, so now that I've pressed this, I'm going to show you how I did that. First of all, we fold in each edge into the centre, and then we fold it again in half. Okay, press that so we're putting the creases into our mask, and that gives us a guide for how we're going to put our pleats in. So the first one I'm going to fold up. Okay, I'm just halving the distance between the two, so fold it halfway to the next fold, and the same with this one, so we're creating a fan effect with our creases that we've already put in. You can then pin that in place, so it's a bit easier when we come to the sewing machine. Just be careful, watch your fingers when you're doing this. Okay, and then we're going to stitch right on the very edge all the way down this side, and then the same on the other. Try to keep these pleats lined up. Okay, and that is your finished face mask. Ready to wear.